Good evening, everybody. It's the call to order for the Teaching and Learning Committee. Today is January 18th. The time is now 6:04 p.m. In attendance is Committee Member Christine Perez, Committee Member Joe Lombard, Superintendent Testani, Teresa Mcguire, and Ms. DeYoung. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes dated November 16th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next up on the agenda is special education update and report. I believe Mr. D. Young's taking that away.
Yeah.
Wherever you want. Okay.
Someone's got to move that chair.
Okay, thank you for having me. So our first slide is the special education for charter schools. I've updated the numbers for January 18th, 2022.
I'm sorry, we don't see a slide.
Oh, the next one. Oh, gotcha.
Just the whiteboard.
Little rest after that.
Oh. Is that?
Okay.
Got it. Thing is,
I have to go to the next one.
oh.
All right.
I can start talking.
The next slide.
Okay, the numbers all decreased slightly for the charter schools, and I believe it's because of the October count. Once the October count happens and then kids have issues at the schools, then there's a slight reduction. We have it every year for that.
Tim, is the next slide? There you go.
Okay, that's the charter school slide. So if you notice, see in every category from the 11th to the 1st, all of them went down slightly, like 2 points, 3 points, 1 point, because of that October date. So that's about the time where kids are having some issues, and then they are now back with us, a lot of them. The next slide is our evaluations. So we compared to the 2020 to the 2022 school year, the same time frame. And as you can see, we had a little COVID issue last year, but now the numbers have gone up slightly. So the total number of evaluations is 544. 109 did not meet. From that 544 did not receive special education services, and 4 moved out prior to completion of their evaluations. Next slide. This is the students with disabilities currently, 2020 to 21 and 21 to 22. They're in each column. So we have all the numbers here. You wanted the breakdown for the ethnicities. The next slide will be that, where it talks about how many kids are in special ed with each category. You had asked for that last meeting. So this is the demographics of what we just have now. So male and female, non-binary, we added that from the state, and the different racial breakdown and each number for the 2021 to 2022. The next slide is the racial and ethnic group disability breakdown. I have a copy if you want it in your hand. I can get you a copy real quick.
Yes, please.
Yep.
Here we go.
Thank you.
So in this category, I wanted to create because we had asked for this the last meeting. It shows the district at a snapshot with all the different categories on the side in blue, the racial ethnicities in orange, and the total numbers at the end. So each category is labeled here. I can pause if you wanted to ask any questions about this particular slide.
Yes.
Can I have the packet?
I sent it via email, but
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have in front of me the total general population of how reflective of this, are there any categories that are skewed?
well, so I thought that question would come up. So I have the population numbers for what the numbers are for the population of Bridgeport, and the numbers are not skewed. So we have African American is 32% in the city, and there's 51% of Hispanic Americans in the city. So the numbers are coincide with the population that we have.
The population of Bridgeport.
Yes.
Trying to remember back to when. Yeah, I'm trying to remember back to our student demographics from the last meeting. But yeah, as long as nothing's unbalanced. But in the future, when we present numbers like this, can we get it right next to, like, just side by side, so we could just pull it out easily?
Do you mean the
Just-
2021 school year? Is that what you're saying?
Just the ethnic, just the population versus like the races. If it's 20% African American,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I want to be able to like immediately see if there's like 25%.
Ah,
versus
okay.
20%,
So we
so we can see if there's any disproportionality between any of the groups.
Okay.
And that's pretty much how it, like, most data present. It's easier to catch stuff.
Right, you can see the glaring numbers right there. Okay, I can.
And it's not just for this, but for like any data where we have like racial breakdowns or ethnic breakdowns.
Okay,
Be great.
will do.
Like this.
I'll have that.
So there's no real big disproportionality between the group.
Not that I can see, but I think that if you saw it the way you're seeing it with the numbers right next to it,
Yeah.
you probably can see it better.
I'll let the record reflect, Ms. Castillo, board member is in a meeting. Welcome.
So to give you an idea, there is 30% of the district as of January 1st that is Black or African American. About 9.5% are white, and Hispanic Latinos 56%. Those are the major ethnic breakdown that we have. So as you can see, it is quite reflective
Yeah.
on the percentages. Pretty clean too.
Yeah, and I got a question. If we could back up to, this charter school breakdown.
Yep, that would be the first slide.
That's where the percentage of those identified students with disabilities seems to be disproportionately high compared to Bridgeport schools. And it's something that I've been speaking to the State Department of Ed about, because it seems as if that population of over-identifying students in the charter school seems to be increasing, specifically one or two of the charter schools in particular. We're trying to participate and make sure a special ed supervisor is monitoring and participating in the PD meetings to make sure that services are being rendered that are appropriate, not seeing them over-identify students for services that may not qualify or may not need services, and billing the district and draining resources unnecessarily.
And adding paras and adding other services that are not needed in the building.
The record reflect that Mr. Benahan has joined the meeting as well. Yeah, I got another question about the charter schools. Say around this time every year, we get students back with, is there any trending disabilities that the children are coming back with? This,
Yeah.
do we
Oh, yes. So most of the time they're coming back for the behavioral issue.
behavior?
Yep.
But,
So emotional disturbances,
Right.
ADHD, those type of labels.
Also, a few incidences this year that students are being told if they withdraw and return to their district school that they will not be expelled. Or in a couple of cases, we've had expelled students then come to us and then we would have to pay the alternative place rather than dealing with the behavior and as we would. So there's some nuances to the legislation that is a disadvantage when it comes to trying to govern.
So the students with the greatest challenges behaviorally seem to be getting counseled back
Yes.
into Bridgeport Public Schools. Now, is this because then it's too hard for them to meet their needs, or they have the inability to meet the needs, or?
I don't think it's because of an inability. I mean, these are children. I think it's just much more difficult to handle behavioral issues. And it's easier than to counsel those folks back to the neighborhood school.
And also makes it probably much easier to teach a class
Right.
without disturbances, and helps the grades stay up and more reflective in their schools.
One of the other challenges, and this could also be probably for other committees, but I think it's relevant here, is that these counseling of folks out doesn't occur until after the October 1st enrollment, because that's where funding is based upon. So we see a lot of that happening after the October 1st count. We are introducing a portal this year where the students that are accepted and enrolled at the charter schools will be inputted into the portal. And that portal will cross-reference so that they can't be counted at multiple schools simultaneously like we currently are. So we found that to be a problem, especially with transportation, that kids are enrolled in multiple schools. And we're trying to do a lot of legwork in figuring out where they're enrolled. And then it comes out cleaned up after October 1st, and it becomes problematic. So the portal will help alleviate those duplicates throughout the whole system.
At this time, I'm going to take some questions from committee members if we have any questions. Ms. Perez, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm having some issues hearing. So what happens after or on October 1st?
Sure. So after the October 1st enrollment count with the state that basis of funding, some of the more behaviorally challenged students are counseled back to their neighborhood Bridgeport Public School, especially those that Mr. Young mentioned that receive IEP services that are causing disruptions throughout the school day. They are then told or counseled back to their neighborhood school, where would then fall upon the district to provide the services. Now,
do we have any data as to the type of behavioral problems? Like, is there specifically this child is going back because this school lacks, for example, maybe speech therapy, so therefore it's recommended that child goes back to their local district school?
No, we would provide the services, and we do provide the services at the charter school.
Okay, so what exactly is the demographic that's being sent back? I guess I don't want to hear a bucket of behavioral issues. Do we have any data that's available that shows the specifications exactly as to what's going on?
Well, we didn't pull that data, but we know that it's notoriously the emotionally disturbed students that are labeled emotionally disturbed, or students with behavioral issues at the school. We don't have access to the Power School data from the charter school, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what infractions they did inside the school, but we can pull some data to find out the actual characteristics of those students that come back, and what types of issues that they were having there in some way. I can look into that.
Yeah, if you can pull that data, I think that would be good to look at.
And all, Ms. Perez?
I don't have any further questions right now.
Mr. Lombard?
I have no questions at this moment. Thank you.
Board member, Ms. Castillo, any questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Bennett?
No question, Ms. Parker.
Okay, Mr. Young, please continue.
We were on the out-of-district placement. Right there. So currently, our out-of-district placements for this catchment period from November till now, we've had 5 out-of-district placements. One was made from a DCF court case. The other one is from Harding to TUS. That's our alternative placement school. 2 came from another district already placed in an out-of-district placement, and 1 came from another district within Connecticut, and they were already in an out-of-district placement. So that's from November till now. Okay, and the next one is our total out-of-district placement. So that's of the running list that I started from the beginning. This, for the month of December, we had 5. I went over the other ones before, so November was 2, and so on. October was 11, but currently we have the 5 that's reflected from the last slide. And the next is our in-district self-contained classrooms. Those are our SOARS and AIMS classrooms, specialized classrooms for behavioral issues. We've had 13 referred through PPT to those placements. 3 students were placed in our autistic spectrum classes. 4 were moved to our medically fragile classrooms. 5 to our AIMS and SOARS, and 1 is still pending placement currently. Question?
Mr. Lombard, any questions on this portion?
No, thank you.
Ms. Perez?
No.
Ms. Castillo?
No.
Mr. Bennett?
No question.
And the next slide it just indicates that it's 12 pending that one last one, the one that's pending the placement. And these are upcoming things that are happening in the district. We're excited about what's coming up. So we're having what's called the IEP quality training that's going to occur. The superintendent was kind enough to give us 30 spots so that we can train 30 lead special education teachers. What's happening in the district is that we're moving towards CTSEDS. We used to have IEP Direct, but CTSEDS is the new statewide sponsored IEP platform training module that we have to all go to in the district. And with that comes IEP quality training, where each person is learning how to write the IEP in a certain way so that we can stave off any state complaints or anything that we've seen that have been problematic. So everyone's going to write it the same way, being trained by these 30 individuals that'll be our lead special education teachers. The administrators, which is very exciting, are going through what Mr. Testani created, where we have a small cohort of administrators that we're having our first one tomorrow. I'm excited about this, where they get to examine an IEP and learn the components of an IEP so they can then go back to their teachers and then say, well, these are the things that I should see in these IEPs. They'll be more apt to know what exactly is supposed to go in different sections of the IEPs, what goes into our pleasant levels of performance, and what goals are supposed to look like so that they can work with their teachers more effectively. We're starting our first one tomorrow, so it's going to go well, I'm sure. And the RFP, which is very exciting as well. We're going to do a special education audit of our system so that we can see where the different pitfalls are. I think you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so it should be going to the next contracts committee. We finalized an RFP that needs to be approved to go out. I mean, it's been quite a number of years since the special education department district-wide has had a review. We want to make sure that an outside entity comes in and looks at it, not just from a money standpoint, but also to make sure that we are properly staffed. And with the staff we do have, we are operating efficiently and effectively. What we are uncovering, and this is why we did a little pivot, so I created some principal cohorts to have discussions around different topics throughout the school year. And when we got to our last cohort meeting, which was around special education, it became really evident to Mr. Young, myself, and Lauren Lucas, who's one of our special ed supervisors, in doing some digging, that there's a disconnect at the school level in many cases, not in all, but in a lot of cases where the IEP and the service hours and things that are happening at the PPT are not reflective of data on the student that's being collected. And we have now created a situation. For example, there was a school where every kid that was receiving supportive hours from the resource teacher was uniform. Every kid was receiving the same number of hours per week, which raised the red flag. We did some more digging. So because of that, Mr. Young and Lauren and the team have put together some examples of IEPs and some data. Tomorrow we start with the first two cohorts, and we're going to discuss if this is the data presented, does this match with how the IEP is written? Yes or no? And it's kind of a quiz, but it's also a discussion around what to look for and what data needs to be collected when you're making these decisions that impact the lives of children. We're finding that there are students that are excelling on our district-wide assessments that have not been released from special education services. And we found that could be up to 100, 150 that no longer require services, yet we're taking time to continue to service them. And the data suggests differently. So we're hoping that between the audit, review, however you want to term it, and these internal discussions that we work with principals and assistant principals to raise awareness, that we can act more efficiently and effectively for kids.
And the last thing I put on the list is internal audits. We have a team of administrators that are going to buildings to pull IEPs to find out what needs to go into them, what kind of things that we can talk to the schools about improving upon their data collection in the school. They're going to talk to building teams about what kind of things need to go into IEPs. So we're going to do our own internal audits. We have teams of people that are going to each of the schools, pull random files, find out how we can help those schools. So that's where we are. Questions?
Complaints, any open complaints?
We currently do not have any new state complaints. We had one last year, but I'm happy to say we don't have any, knock on wood.
Wow.
No.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, we've been working extremely hard. I give Mr. Young a lot of credit and the team. He stepped into the role since Mr. Arnold's illness and departure, unfortunately, and really brought everyone together. I just think a real focus on trying to improve the delivery of services for kids, and that emphasis over the next several years, I think, is going to make a lot of difference, not just with staff, not just for hopefully the budget, but I think in the lives of our kids.
Mr. Lombard.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Ms. Perez?
What's included in the ConnecticutSED, the new state-sponsored platform?
So really, they want a uniform, I think, platform where all IEPs then can be pulled and audited by the state. I think it's really for oversight and for uniformity statewide. They decided to make this shift, and we have no say. We can't break away from it. It is a system, an IEP system that we did have almost 10 years ago, and from this company and went away from. I'm assuming that in the last decade, this company has updated their product and made it more user-friendly, or the state wouldn't have contracted with them. It's going to be a heavy lift. We're going to identify these 30 lead special education teachers, not only to participate in the quality training, but also to be trained by the state on their dime. Hopefully it covers the entire bill, that they can come back and train the other 425 folks in the district in small cohorts and be able to support them throughout the year. I think they're asking a lot, especially of large districts. We've, as the big five, as they call us in the state, we've expressed that we'd like additional year to perform this transition, but that we were denied. So we will be prepared to make this happen.
How long is the training going to be for this?
I believe it's 8 hours of training. So we're going to try to split it up once we train our trainers. The state trains our trainers now into 2 4-hour sessions, and then have it videotaped so that teachers can go reflect back. They want to rewatch it and retake it. It'll be available as one of our training sessions.
And then,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Young, I have one question for you. Did any issues or any situation happen in each school, like, call this year or behavior or BBT, or they always report you, they let you know the school, inform you what's going on in the school, in different school. They let you know any issues happening in each school.
No, well, it depends. So if the issue is a new issue, the school handles that issue,
Yeah.
and the special ed supervisor handles that issue, then it rises to different levels if it becomes a bigger issue than the school can handle.
Yeah, because I know you have different supervisors. I thought you had some, be the director, they report you, they give reports what's going on in
They
the schools.
don't, like, not from, there's so many PPTs that go on every day that it would be impossible to have all of them. So
Okay.
if it's a major one, and if I get wind of it, I would
That's
then,
something more serious.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, no more question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Steve?
I
Yes.
have a question.
Oh,
Yeah, be right.
one moment. Let Ms. Castillo go, and then I'll get back to you, Ms. Perez, if that's okay.
Okay, my question is, what is the process for identifying the 30 lead special education teachers?
So because of collective bargaining, we'll post them and teachers will apply. And there'll be a selection based, at least one at every building. That's going to be the first and foremost. And a number of other factors based on experience and based on, some past history as well. But it's going to be opened up for every special ed teacher in the building to have that opportunity. There'll be a small stipend with it, like we've done this year with the lead teachers in the buildings and the additional lead teachers we're adding next year. It's just been a great support given a lot of the things that have been rolled out this year, and this would be no different. We've heard a lot about the additional responsibilities on our special ed teachers, and we felt that it's important that if we're going to throw a little bit more on one individual within the building to support the rest of their colleagues, that we should stipend it as well.
Okay, and what, is there a committee that's formed to make the selection, or?
Well, it'll be the principal with some input from the special ed supervisors at the district level. Similar to what we did with the lead teachers that we have currently at the elementary and middle schools.
Perez?
So my question is, this is going into effect on what date? So if, for example, what if IEPs written this year is not up to par? Will they have to be rewritten?
no. So the IEP, so right now, since we have our 5 special ed supervisors, they've been watching and looking through IEPs. We have what's called our CDAC data, where we go into an IEP and find the different issues that happen in the IEP, and then we deal with it in real time. We didn't have that capability before, so we're catching a lot of the mistakes before they happen. And once we roll over into the new CT-SEDS, which is going to begin July
Yes.
2022 this year, we would have already had those 30 people trained in May. So they would already be giving those trainings to several different people. So we shouldn't have as many issues that we would have had we not had those supervisors and people looking at those IEPs intently.
Okay, and what are the consequences if after July 20, you said 2022, so I'm just gonna say July 1st?
Mm-hmm. What are the consequences? Is that what you said?
Like if the IEPs are not written up to the standards that's implemented by the state.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I don't give consequences, but we do talk to different teachers, pull them in. We'll go over different IEPs. We send emails out to everyone when there's infractions. There's a whole system that we do try to catch the IEPs before they're written in that way. And so in the new system, though, it's going to have stopgaps so that people can't move on if it's inappropriate data. So we're going to, the new system does have that capability of stopping the system from going on if you're not putting in data. So that's the only good thing about this new system. But the old IEPs that are rolling over, we will work with the special ed supervisors to work with those teachers in their cohorts on getting that in properly.
Right. So I imagine then there's a data migration of sorts
Yes.
to go into the new system.
Mhm.
So with that, if there are any inadequacies, then we can assume that it'll likely be caught in that transfer.
That's what we're working on with data management, because there is going to be a migration, like you said.
Right.
I like that word, over to the new platform. And we got to work with data management to see how that system will flow.
Will there be specifics? Probably not. So if somebody wrote a goal or an objective for a student that may not be completely appropriate, would that be caught? Probably not.
Right.
Because it's written in the place it's supposed to be and everything else. But that's what we're trying to avoid as we do these internal audits, is to make sure that we're finding that the IEPs are written properly, but they're also reflective of the child's needs. And I think, it's like I said, it's been a long time. We have a long way to go, and I think it's going to take some time. But I think, we have to start somewhere, and this is the time to start.
Anything else, Ms. Burns?
Not at this time.
And I believe that's, if anybody else has anything for Mr. Young, speak now or hold your peace. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
Get you out of here early today. Next item up on the agenda is the pre-K update and report. I believe Ms. Mcguire is taking that away.
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire, welcome.
I do want to, before she begins, say that it's been a great addition, not only to have Ms. Mcguire personally herself, but also the position back in the district of the Director of Early Childhood Education. It's already the immediate effects of having a director and a director of this caliber is being seen day in and day out. So I just want to start by saying that she's jumped in and done an amazing job in making sure that our preschool programs are on par with our suburban districts, as well as and our kids are getting the early childhood experience that they deserve. So I want to just start by saying that, because I think it's worth noting.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Therese Mcguire, the Director of Early Childhood Education. So I know that you had some questions regarding enrollment, attendance, and demographics. We currently have 890 students in total enrolled. We are funded by two sources. So we are funded by Smart Start and School Readiness. We have 4 Smart Start schools and 22 school readiness schools, but this number also reflects Skane School, that is our preschool special education site. Our attendance is great. We have 85.97% up to date, so that's great to see. We have also seen a real big increase in enrollment. I know during COVID, parents were hesitant, and rightly so, about enrolling their child in pre-K. Each day we get a daily enrollment report. So it tells us the number of seats that are open, and we are currently only at 5 open seats in our entire district, which is great. So what I do when I receive that daily report is I got in the habit when I came in this position, I email the secretaries, because we strongly encourage each school to have a waiting list to say, where are we on the waiting list? Have you contacted a family? Sometimes the family will call our department or the superintendent's office, and we try to refer them to a site that has an opening, because obviously we want them to be enrolled in our district preschool programs. So every Wednesday, the secretaries of the particular schools that appear on that report will get an email from me saying, hey, noticed you had an opening. Where are we with the waiting list? And they work with me to ensure we can fill that spot too. So we're trying to be proactive about those openings, because we know early experiences for children are really beneficial before they hit kindergarten. With attendance, we've been really monitoring the attendance. We've been updating teachers about our attendance protocol, because sometimes preschool teachers aren't so certain, what is their role or what is the district attendance intervention policy. So we work closely with them. I'm also working with our district student success team too, to update them on how we collect attendance for preschool and what is happening if we're not seeing a child attend too. So kind of doing that wraparound services regarding attendance too. With recruitment for students, when I came to this position, I updated our website so that there would be more information for families regarding preschool enrollment and other important standards related to preschool. We have flyers across the district. We've been sending, when we had school messenger blast, and now parent swear notifications, and we'll get ready to do our applications soon. So we'll make sure that we continue those supports. We have it available in multiple languages too. And sometimes when a family calls us or comes to our office, we provide that direct support to them with completing the application, because sometimes it's a little tricky for parents and we want them to have that direct support too, and to start to build that initial relationship with them, because if they start with us in preschool, our hope is that they'll continue to high school. So if we build that positive relationship now, then they have a good, strong start. With staff recruitment, we are full in terms of teachers. It's the paraprofessionals that becomes a little bit of a concern, but it's because of the state requirement. The state requires 12 credits, and some of our staff don't have the 12 credits that are interested in being paraprofessionals. We've had conference calls with Commissioner Bai, because we're seeing that across the state, not only unique to us as Bridgeport, saying, is there a waiver that we can do with these 12 credits? Because what we're finding is, as we go out to sites, a teacher might say, I have a great paraprofessional that's currently working under Delta T. We want them to come over to our, to be contracted. And unfortunately, it's the state requirement. It's not our district level of interest. So that's been a barrier that we keep expressing to the state. If they can modify those 12 credits, then we can move forward with interested individuals. I've also been working with our human resources department, because we're looking at university partnerships to find those individuals that I spoke about as we're going out to a site and a teacher says, wow, I have Therese and she'd be great at being a para, but she doesn't have the 12 credits, to kind of get them to a local university to do those credits and to have kind of an internship with us. So we're in the very beginning stages of figuring out how that might happen to increase.
To piggyback on that, we are in the process of developing a program through the early childhood department at Housatonic. And we're starting to look at how much of the federal dollars we can set aside to help fund that program, to eliminate the barrier for folks to enter into the profession. So we're hopeful that we can have that up and running for the next semester.
And the other support that we're providing, and that's not well advertised at the state level, the OEC has scholarship opportunities. So, a teacher came to us and said, I have somebody, connected as one of our parents who only did 3 credits, but is willing on their own to go back and complete the remaining credits. But funding is an issue. So what does a parent do? The OEC has scholarships, but it's not well advertised by the OEC. So what I've been doing is sending it out to teachers too, as they've been contacting me saying, hey, I have a great person, but financially it's a hardship. They can apply for the scholarship and the state can decide if they approve that individual or not. But that's another immediate resource for somebody that might really be interested in being a para too.
I'm very glad that John's recording, because you give it good information.
I told you it was critical not only to bring the position back, that Ms. Mcguire has jumped in, all into the deep end of the pool, and is really, if historically, filling spots was always problematic. We don't have any. She's beaten down every door to make sure that kids have access, and there's no. Usually the attendance is something that's really not that great when it comes to preschool, because there's nothing we really can do. But our attendance approach under Ms. Roca Reyes and the early childhood department, coming from a supportive angle and not a punitive angle, really works. So I think, we're seeing some great things, and we're going to see these dividends pay off in the next few years as these kids move through their academic careers.
And then I just wanted to share some highlights with the committee. We started this year in the past, and historically report cards were given by paper and not through Power Teacher. So K through 8 receives it through Power Teacher. It's an electronic report card. That wasn't happening on the preschool end. We updated the report cards to reflect our ELDs, which are our early learning and developmental standards, and they're on Power Teacher. And the parents are now getting a report card similar to what parent would see in kindergarten through 8th grade. So it's the exact same format, but it's our standards, and it shows like the progression of the child towards those standards. So not necessarily a letter grade, but just my individual progression towards the standards that are there. So that's new this year. We have a partnership with Read to Grow. We have 2 on-site Read to Grow coordinators, one at Marin and one at Bryant. They work with families to provide them with home libraries, but Read to Grow has now extended. They have COVID protocols that they're following, but they can support families who have children that are birth to 3. They will come out and work with families to kind of prepare them for some beginning skills at home to get them ready for the preschool experience. So I've shared those flyers with our sites. They've talked to Lynn Stevens about coming out to do some PAC committee meetings to share that service too. And we gave it to our director of bilingual too. So at the new arrival center, parents know that that's a resource for them too if they have a child who's birth to 3 too. So trying to expand that Read to Grow partnership. This year we launched the Footsteps to Brilliance and Clever University app. The great thing about that app is that families do not need Wi-Fi access to use the app at home. It comes in English and Spanish, and it supports the student with literacy, mathematics, and social emotional learning. There are lessons. There are also targeted lessons. So if I'm deficient kind of in learning the letter A and the sounds it makes, the teacher can assign targeted lessons. We're about 4 weeks into implementation, and we have every student logged on, and the recommended time is 3 times a week for 45 minutes, and we're seeing really great usage data. We just met with the company because we do monthly check-ins, and they were surprised to see in only 4 weeks of implementation, every student is on. We had 2 preschools that were impacted by COVID, and we were able to give that information to families. So they were using it during the time if their child had to be quarantined too. And we saw great usage even from those children who unfortunately had to be quarantined for a period of time. But we're really excited about the Footsteps because we're seeing some really great progress of students. And what I do is I check the weekly data, and I'm sending out certificates to the individual students through their teacher and to the principal too, because we know it has to be a team approach to really encouraging children. So they get certificates around the amount of books read or the number of words read, or if they meet the leaderboard that week. And a lot of the teachers, the feedback I've received is that kids are really excited about that certificate. And if I'm a day behind, they go, it's Friday. She usually sends it Thursday, what's going on? But that's good feedback from the students too. As I said before, we've updated the early childhood website because there really wasn't a lot of information for families. What do I do if I'm trying to transition my child to toileting? The state has a Sparkler app where you can register your child and check your child's developmental progress, and it will tell you if they're on point, or should you consult with your pediatrician, or should you tell your school. And you can download the Sparkler app to your phone and kind of track it on your own. So we put that information up there for families. We put the guide to our early learning and developmental standards so that families can know what should my child be learning in language and math and science and social studies. So we're just trying to expand that website to provide more information immediately to families. With the Talk Foundation, they have been very generous about supporting social emotional learning. So we were able to buy Little Spots kits. I have a little spot with me. So our students we know need visuals, and it connects to Ruler because of the social emotional vocab. So this is our emotion detective, and all of your emotions are inside of you. So some days you're not sure what emotions you're feeling. So through talking about it and using words, you can split and figure out which feelings you have. They come with stories, and then they have happy and confident. So the child has a visual support for talking about their feelings too. So each teacher in our preschool sites through the Talk Foundation and some of our own department funding are receiving these kids to support social emotional learning in their classroom. We found that we were missing an initial screening in the application. Some of the districts use what's called an ASQ3, or an Ages and Stages questionnaire, where the parent can answer questions about their own child's social emotional development. Do I have difficulty expressing my feelings? Did I cry a lot? That gives us initial data on what additional supports we may need to begin to consider as a child enters our preschool environment. So we're going to add that ages and stages questionnaire to the application process just to give our schools a little bit more initial data too. We are currently working on the preschool family handbook. It hasn't been updated in a while, so we want to make sure it reflects what we're currently doing as a district and as a department for our families too. And then we have 4 programs that are going under national accreditation. So one school has already gone through it and we're waiting for the other 3 because we have to go through a re-accreditation in order to keep our national accreditation. Just that's our updates.
Thank you. Question, how many, excuse me, how many sites do we have,
We have 22 school readiness and 4 smart start, so 26 in total.
and they're dispersed throughout the city?
Yes.
Pretty much?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Perez?
I have a question about staffing for paraprofessionals. How many open positions are there currently?
I believe last time we checked with HR, we had about 10 that were being filled by either Delta T or Kelly.
Can you tell me what Delta T is?
They're a company.
Agencies that provide substitutes for non-certified staff.
Okay, so for non-certified staff, or when those positions are being filled, for the non-certified staff, are they coming from Bridgeport itself or from all over the state into our classrooms?
Well, I mean,
Then do we know the demographic of the paraprofessionals coming in?
we probably can get that information. I know that some come from outside of the city, but I would venture to say from our recent history that the majority do come from Bridgeport.
Mr. Lombard?
I don't have any questions, but just want to comment. This sounds very exciting. It's great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did have one question. You mentioned that there was about 87% of attendance.
85.7%.
So there's about 15% of students that are enrolled but not attending.
It could be the amount of, so we look at it critically. So as we're looking at their attendance, we have what's called in Power School a quick lookup report. So we're looking at the pattern of attendance. Was it a regular absence? Was it an excused absence? Was it a medically excused absence? And then we're having conversations with the school, you know, following our district protocols. Did you make the phone call home? Have you emailed the parent? And sometimes it's just a matter of that we're missing a link and talking to the families about, okay, we're noticing this pattern of behavior, and a family might tell you, well, transportation was an issue this week. So we're talking about, you know, do you have some other supports for transportation? So we're really looking at it as a case-by-case basis, because we also had a family that, due to family circumstances, had to travel out of the country and had to be out of the country for almost a month. So we talked about, you know, that's not really supportive of the students' academics. We understand for family emergencies, but is there some other arrangements we can make? So we're really looking at a case-by-case basis.
That's an overall just attendance rate for every kid based on the number of days that were in attendance so far. So
Right. Got it.
it's a pretty good number when you consider that it's not mandated, and parents do know that.
Right.
So I'm quite impressed with the commitment. And like I said, I think it's the approach has been much more supportive than in historical years, where it was more punitive, and that didn't work.
Right.
And a lot of times, if you just take the time to try to ask why and how can we help, we can make connections with community partners or just little adjustments here within our district to help families. Maybe transportation, as Ms. Mcguire mentioned, so a closer site to the home is available and they're not aware of that.
Right.
And it may be rather than a school-based site. So, you know, we're doing a lot. You know, this was one of the things that, as superintendent, I was committed to, is early childhood education. You know, being someone who spent a lot of time at the high school, you don't realize that the issues you deal with in high school didn't start in high school. They started in preschool. And if we can start by building a solid foundation for our children, that's later on, you know, 10, 12 years down the road, you won't see those challenges that those children face as teenagers, just because we didn't give them the foundation and the opportunity to be successful when they were 3 and 4 years old. So,
Right.
And I think another piece of this too is kind of educating our families too, because in some circumstances, there's a mindset of that, oh, you're just kind of babysitting, and
Right.
trying to kind of shift that mindset. We're trying to prepare them for kindergarten and give them all the tools to be successful in kindergarten. So sometimes families weren't aware of that. So it's kind of educating them, like when they're coming to school, here are some of the learning experiences they're having. And this is how it relates to being the readiness for kindergarten, because some of our families just weren't aware. So it's kind of educating our families regarding that piece, because some of the initial conversations, well, it's not mandatory. Like, what are you guys really doing? So it's really to kind of raise a little bit of awareness to, we are preparing them for kindergarten.
Just to inform both of the new board members, one of the things that really attracted me to bring Footsteps to Brilliance to the district was the fact that if there are children that are not attending school because parent can't get them, they have at least an opportunity at home to still stay engaged in the learning process. And, wherever this program has been has shown big dividends when it came to assessment data later on. So I'm thinking that we're going to see this, and we're already seeing it 4 weeks into full implementation, which is exciting.
Awesome. And then my other comment or suggestion, really, my background's in higher ed. And so I know that most local universities also have just career services departments. And also that there's local universities that have education programs. So if you're really in need of finding paraprofessionals, just listing it with the career services office at a local college or university, I'm sure could be helpful, just in terms of the college student earning the experience, something to put on their resume, but also, engaging in the local community and filling a need in the department.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Bennett.
Yes, I have one question and one comment. The first question is, you said they're going to be in Spanish and English. Is it going to be only the language, or they can have a different language?
All the languages, because what I do is when I prepare a communication, I send it to our Office of Bilingual for translation, and we make sure that we write it in Portuguese and Haitian Creole. So it's all the languages that.
And now, Mr. Benan, with Parent Square, the parent can choose the language they want to receive it, regardless if we translate it. So we send it out in English, and Parent Square translates it and receive it in the language that they check off and sign up for the app. So
My comment is, I like the way you made the report. It's the way I like it, to the point clear, and I like the eye contact. I find that very professional. There you go, your report.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did not expect to hear only 5 empty slots in this time of COVID. Just about the empty slots. Are they all in one school, or is it dispersed?
No, it's dispersed. So that's why I have to read it daily just to see where it is. And then I have that conversation. So we kind of joke a little bit in our department. Today's Wednesday, Troy's going to be sending out that communication, but it's so important because there are waiting lists and we want families to have access.
Awesome.
Can I ask where you're based out of?
I'm at City Hall.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Burst.
I had a question about the preschool family handbook. When was the last time it was updated, and what's the deadline to have the newest version completed?
It was in the revision process with the former director, but it didn't go as far as they wanted it to. So when I came, she said, Therese, that's one of the tasks like you should really work on. So we've started to work on it. Our goal, hopefully, is to have it out when we do the new application period, which happens around March, so that families have access to it at the time that they apply.
This one's more from the slide. What are the 4 preschool programs that will undergo the NIAC accreditation process this year?
Beardsley already went, so we're waiting for that decision. It's Park City Magnet, Dunbar, and Marin.
Okay. How frequent is the NIAC accreditation?
It's good for about 3 years. So every 3 years, we have to go through the reaccreditation process.
At all? Anybody else? Well, thank you very much, Ms. McGuire. Everything was good as always.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Hey, next item up on the agenda, discussion of possible action, educators rising program to include Bassett Central and Harding. That's Ms. Perez's item. Mike, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we were hoping, Ms. Baptiste Perez, if we could table this item. We're gathering more information in our academics office and speaking to the three principals at Central, Harding, and Bassett. And Central already was in the process of developing a similar program with Sacred Heart University, and that is almost completed. And UConn is in the process of offering 3 similar coursework options for kids to get exposed to the teaching profession that would be available as well to Central, Harding, and Bassett students. We also have some questions after receiving the course outline through Ed Rising, and we want to gather some data on success prior to full implementation, if that's a possibility. The principals had some questions that needed to be answered prior to trying to rush into something for the current academic.
Sorry, I got distracted by an alarm.
It's okay. So we were hoping to gather some data during next school year on the program itself, some feedback from students, and also give the opportunity for UConn and Sacred Heart to implement their programs at Central, Harding, and Bassett.
I have a question regarding like duplication of efforts. One of the things about the program, and this is before I was officially part of the board, when I was actually in the last teaching and learning meeting, is the credits, from what I understand, could be used at any university versus credits exclusively towards a university. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but if the student's able, and this is something we can also consider, but just for discussion purposes, like if a student's able to get college credit, then I want to open that up to Bridgeport public students, especially in high school, because that helps lower the cost of college. Like when I hear programs exclusively with Sacred Heart University, if a child decides that they don't want to attend Sacred Heart University, I don't want college credits to essentially go down the drain because they've chosen an opportunity to go to a different institution. I just want to be like aware of like what programs are being offered and whether it's going to be transferable. So that way we're giving our students the best opportunity and chance to save money while being young adults in college.
Sure. So all the dual enrollment programs are transferable to other colleges and universities that exist. For example, the ECE courses that are currently here at Central High School that are well attended, Fairchild Wheeler, Harding has programs that are dual enrolled, so does Bassett. So they are all transferable. It's just for example, Central had a partnership that began a couple of years ago with our teacher residence program. Johnson School and Central were the pilot schools, and so we're hoping that students from these two, I mean, they could come from anywhere, will have the opportunity to have an entry level into the teaching profession. And I think that's what the Ed Rising program is trying to as well do, is put an entry level to get and grow young, an interest in students that are in high school to go and become teachers. We also have Today's Student, Tomorrow's Teachers program. That's also partnered with Sacred Heart here at Central High School and at Harding, Marin, and Black. So, but they are all college credits that can be transferable to other universities. They're not exclusive to that university.
Is there like a report available that would show like at this school, these are the top college credit programs that's available. Because another thing that I do want to focus on is to make sure that all public school students have equal access. So if there's an abundance of different programs at particular schools, then I would like it to be something easy and convenient as a board member to see and evaluate whether certain programs are going to be approved or not.
Well, these are existing programs, the dual enrollment programs that have existed for a long time. We do have some questions being a new program. We'd like to collect some data on its effectiveness. But the dual enrollment, if just to give a little history, at the mass level was a huge failure here in the district. When a certain superintendent was here many years ago, we tried to expand dual enrollment opportunities to as many students as possible. There was universities that were all connected to a particular high school because that's how it was divvied up by the universities themselves. And then Housatonic was also included. I was involved at that time in helping broker and be the liaison between the early college experience. We warned the superintendent that this is not something that should be done en masse. It needs to be on a small scale, simply because what happens is a student enrolls in a dual enrollment course and does not do well. That is on their transcript as well. It doesn't get deleted because you were not enrolled you are officially enrolled at that university. So we want to give equal access, but we want to give equal access to students that have the ability to do well. We don't want to give them a negative, like we did for many kids who left with not only no credits, but also a negative experience at the university or college level, simply because they were not prepared to do so. I think I give Housatonic under President Glenicki a lot of credit at that time. She was very particular based on the testing data on which kids should be selected into the program to make sure that they had a high degree of possibility for success. And even then, I think it was very challenging for many kids who simply were still high school bound students to balance what is expected at the college level. So I think we need to be a little bit careful and not try to cast the net too wide, but open the doors to the opportunities, as you said.
Oh, well, you know what? It may work a little bit differently. As most of you may know, I'm from New York. So in New York, when I was in high school, it was partnered with City University of New York. You can get as many college credits as you could, and I had classmates that did the same. And it was up to you as a student or even the university whether or not to accept the credits. So I had taken college credits in high school and did very well, had several A's, but Cornell wouldn't accept it. So, and that was my choice to attend that university. It was a free program anyway in New York. So again, it went back to having access to it. And I guess I wonder, because I technically have a transcript from a different university that was not applicable to the college I actually attended, how that works in Connecticut, but that may be a little bit just over thinking it, because maybe just in my experience, I know that just even if a student was to take a college credit course and not do well in it, the university they may actually end up attending may not accept the credit as well, or they don't have to present it, I don't think. But that may just be different state standards.
Yeah, I do think, let me speak.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I do think that it definitely varies from school to school, but from the higher education perspective, I will say that ECE credits are widely accepted in most colleges. I have an extensive network of colleagues that are at in admissions offices at universities all over the state, all over the country, really. And I think most universities will say that they accept ECE credits, they're familiar with them. Even AP credits, if a score, if a student scores a certain grade in an AP course, that even could be transferable or eligible for college credit. So I do think that there is I think it's a concept that's socialized in higher education for, accepting early college credits from high school students, especially in the case of DC.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes, Mr. Lombard, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to basically echo everything that the last two board members have stated. And, one of the things about this particular program, which when we were asking about it, it's understood that these courses would fall into the degree plan at UB. So even if they were accepted as elective courses at another university, or possibly not accepted, but they may not fall into that, fulfilling that requirement towards teaching program at the next school. So that's definitely something that, number one, they may not be accepted because another university, even though the credits are from an accredited university, another university obviously does not have to accept them. But even if they do, they may just be electives and may not go towards the plan. Whereas with this program, they do go specifically towards the plan. But the other thing I want to also echo what Ms. Perez was saying about, equal access. I mean, definitely certain programs, the history of them, like you were saying, Mr. Tessani, they've come about over the years with different high schools and as far as duplication and so on and so forth. But I do like the idea that's being pushed forward that basically what's available to one high school student is available to another high school student. So not necessarily to put a big wide blanket out and have it kind of backfire, but where there is a program that, unless the university doesn't want to work with a particular high school in our district and only wants to work with another one, I think it would be a good idea that the opportunities are available to everyone. I think that's what Ms. Perez was trying to say. So I would echo that sentiment. Thank you.
Absolutely. I agree actually with everybody here as well. I think the point is not just to have a certain program, but to have access to programs for our students to excel. Because as we were at the board meeting, presented the approval of advising, one of the students, I believe it was Basic, said, "Oh, I want to do that. I would like access to that." And if there's nothing in Basic, that's one teacher lost right there, and that student's representative of the school. So there's probably a lot of kids we could get, and I just want to be mindful that we need to be an equity-driven board. We need to be an equity-driven district, and if some students may not have the capabilities, we need to meet them where they are and give them the capabilities to succeed and to find out what's lacking in the students that needs to be corrected for them to do well and to move on to these college level courses. And the best place to attack that would be at our level before they go out into college.
Are ECE courses available for students to take at all the high schools?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Benahan?
B courses as well.
Okay.
And then there's specific pathways that have been established by different high schools. So Harding has the CNA program, the medical component, because they have the medical magnet, so to speak. Basic has the advanced manufacturing, as well as the auto program that has a partnership with Gateway Community College. So there are different nuances based on career pathways that have been established at each high school throughout the district. So as we tried to streamline a little differently, the only question was we need to identify teachers as well that will teach the courses before we just approve courses, because we may not have a teacher that wants to teach. They already had all that worked out prior to coming to the board. We do have some questions that were not asked at the board level, that were not presented, that information as we dug a little deeper. So that's why we'd like to get some data before rolling it out district-wide, because there are some questions that need to be answered regarding course outline and things that did not come about until more information was requested by Dr. Jenkins.
So what kind of timeline are we looking at to gather the data and see if it could if that could expand or get these other programs?
I mean, we can expand this program. There's no reason. I mean, it's been approved by the board. We can always add other schools to it at the end of the first semester to see how many kids began, how many stayed with it, a survey to the staff, to the students. Because the goal of this is really to create a pathway for students into the teaching profession. And we've tried to establish that this is kind of this is the conflicting program that we've now brought in, and it's not the others. The others have been established that we've tried to incorporate with today's student, tomorrow's teacher, with the teacher residency program that's now in its third year, that provides students with first 2 years at Sacred Heart at a lower rate. And then there's graduate and training and things like that. So I think this is the new program coming in that we'd like to see and get more data on before we continue to expand. We want it to be successful, and seeing, hopefully Victoria Maurer, who is identified as the teacher, stays with us to begin next semester teaching the course that's been approved, because that's the other problem we face, is that we have to have a teacher that's committed to this, that's not going to walk away.
Is that not, well, you know what, I read it, but why isn't that put into the contract that maybe the teacher that's putting forward or volunteering to do it is actually going to make a commitment to stay within the district or in that particular school for a certain period of time?
There's nothing. I mean, they've offered to teach the course, but I mean, if they leave, they leave. I mean, we're not giving them any money. We're not giving them anything extra to teach the course so that they're tied to us for any length of time. They could apply for a job next week and take a job in another district. So that's one of the things that, becomes an issue as well.
Well, that's something to be mindful for, because in my perspective, I'm looking at towards the kids. Why volunteer to be a teacher and be involved with this college credit program and then decide towards the end of the school year, I'm just going to up and leave?
I don't think that's going to happen here. I think I would hope that this, it came to us already planned out. But I think for the 3 comprehensive high schools, I want to get the administration and the staff on board before we make any commitments that we're going to open it up next year.
Well, once it's evaluated, I think you could actually drive that conversation.
Sure.
They work for you. If you find that it's a good program,
Yeah,
whether they like it or not, it's what's best for the students.
absolutely.
If it's found to be good, it's like, you want this program. You're going to implement this program in your.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, Mr. Benahan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Tony, question. AP classes are classes where the student take a test. At the end and if they pass it, they get credit. There are some schools that have more than others.
There are some schools that have more AP courses. Are you referring to AP courses? Yeah, I mean, Central High School has a ton of AP courses simply because of the magnet program. They've historically had more AP courses because they have a component that's been housed here for decades. But there's AP courses available at Central, Harding, Bassick, and Fairchild Wheeler BMA as well. But I would probably say there's a higher number offered here simply because of the magnet program, and that's driven more AP courses.
Only Central High School or the?
No, they have it there's AP courses at Harding, there's AP courses at.
Okay.
But like you said, you have to score a specific score on the AP exam in order to earn the college credit. It's not just passing the course, you have to take the AP exam.
Thank you, Mr. Stan. No more question, Mr. Chair.
So how about, I propose this, we, come back, reconvene on this subject, and when do you think, programs could be properly evaluated and?
Well, the first semester this is going to be taught at the two schools, the first semester of the 22-23 school year. So that ends in January of 23. We'll be able to gather how many kids took the course, completed the course, and did well in the course, and get some feedback as well. Because if any of you worked in a high school, kids may register for the course and they may not stick with the course. They have a particular time frame. They can drop the course and take a different course. I mean, I'm hopeful that they get all 20 students and are able to do well in the course. It's a heavy lift. I mean, it's not impossible, but I do think it's a heavy lift.
Ms. Perez, you have something?
This is a little bit on topic, but a bit tangent. It's just, I think it would just be valuable to see the access to college credit in a broader sense for each particular school. That was kind of stems from Albert's comment regarding AP credits. Again, my line is equal access for Bridgeport students to get college credits. So whether you're in a magnet school or you're just at Hardin or Bassick, if my child is in the public school, I want them to have access to it, and they shouldn't feel like, oh, well, I should move to this particular part of town because I want my child to be there, or I missed the opportunity to apply to a magnet school. So, and a parent feel as though their child is going to be disadvantaged somehow, and for a student to also feel that way. I just think that kind of information should be available, but that was just a thought on my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Ms. Perez. Actually, I was taking some notes for the next. We got our first meeting coming up on the 31st for the equity inclusion. And I was making a note to myself for an equity audit of all the AP programs throughout the district and have it broken down to the extent possible, race, neighborhood, whatever have you.
I just want to add, not being devil's advocate, but just for the sake of considering all aspects of this particular issue, is that like in higher ed, for example, if you want to create a new program, there's a pretty extensive process that goes along with that, because there's resources that are going to be involved in implementing a new program. So in this case, if you wanted to say add AP, programs to Bassick or to Harding, there would have to be a level of interest in a particular subject area, because ultimately we're going to have to staff it. So if the interest isn't there, I feel like it's a moot point. But if there is interest, and if there was some sort of rule of thumb involved in measuring the interest, then I think there's data there to look at that could be of value, that would make it worthwhile to staff something like that. But otherwise, you can make 10 courses available for kids. If there's no interest in it and they don't sign up for it. I went to Central Magnet. I took AP courses because I wanted to. And granted, because those were available for me to take, but there was interest there. I took courses that my peers did not take because they weren't interested in it. So just a point of consideration, as we sort of expand the conversation on that particular subject.
Well,
I understand what you're saying. Maybe recognize.
I was just going to say, to your point, you're absolutely right. It comes down to the number of students that are going to access the course and the staffing you're willing to commit to it. I know of a former AP chemistry teacher who would start every semester. I would make sure there's 25 students that were capable, wanted to take chemistry in that AP. By the end of September, there would be 8 kids left in that course. So now, then we had one teacher, God rest his soul, Mr. Ziegler, taught AP Psych. I could have had 5 sections of that, and all 5 sections would be full. So you're right, because there was an interest, there was a dynamic instructor, there was, and it appealed to folks.
Yeah.
So, and there is staffing and dollars that go along with it,
Right.
because AP courses are not going to be heavily requested.
Right.
At certain buildings, you're just not going to have 25 students in a class. You're going to have 10. So you're going to run a section that you have to make a sacrifice then and say, all right, that teacher is going to teach 10 kids.
Yeah.
First,
Well, one of my questions was interest by whom, because that wasn't necessarily clear, but I could tell that you're talking about student interest.
Correct.
But I guess before foreclosing an opportunity, you won't know until they have access. And
Sure.
you won't know when I was teaching, you had to push your students. None of my students was interested in Spanish, but I had a fun class. They were willing to learn. So yeah, it does take in part having a dynamic teacher involved, but I'm not going to foreclose access based on interest just because most students don't know. And half the time their discouragement is also in part based that nothing's being offered. So before getting into any of the logistics, I would like to see what's being offered school to school as far as college programs that's going to be aimed towards college credits, the amount of AP credits being offered, because maybe it is down to an equity issue, but I think having clarity of what's going on in each school and the opportunities for our students overall is student success is my big goal. So I want to open that up as much as possible to any student.
Lombard, you look like you got something to say?
I'm afraid to say it. The superintendent's not going to like it, I don't think. So, no, I'm just thinking, I know, for example, in my work, we are making a lot of things universal, regardless of location. That opens up opportunities for people at multiple sites. And I'm not saying, remote learning because of COVID. I'm saying remote learning because of opportunity and access. And I'm just imagining a chemistry class where you only have 5 people at one high school and 8 people at another high school, 4 people at another high school, but together that could make one class. I don't know if teachers are employed by their local building or if they're employed by the district, but just to throw that out in general, not just necessarily for this conversation of college credit, but maybe specifically starting there, if there are possibly opportunities for students, especially in these high achieving environments, so it's like these college credit environments, to have a hybrid where maybe they would do their particular lab work in their own regular chemistry lab class, but they go to a study hall and log into the class that a teacher's teaching at 4 different high schools at the same time, an AP class. So just want to throw out different thought processes, because I know, again, it's something that the impetus of COVID, but we were going in that direction anyway. At my school, we're moving in this direction, even for our administrators, where there's just universal application regardless of location. So just to put that idea out there.
And I think that's where we're going to have those opportunities in 22-23 once the state releases the 9/12 guidance on remote learning and how we can implement that as a district. I'm pretty sure that one of the ways that they're going to allow us to use remote options are for cases like this, where we can offer a Mandarin Chinese course. We have a teacher at one school And the only way to offer it to all 3 or 4 or 5 of other schools would be utilizing a remote or a hybrid option. So we're anxiously awaiting the guidelines for how we can utilize remote learning from the State Department of Ed for 22-23 at the high school level.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Benan?
Yes, the chair, you know, I'm not part of the committee, but I just suggest you as a chair in the committee. This is the way you can report, or, you know, they can give a report, a list, all the ECE and AP course offering by school. Yeah, just suggest, you know, you bring that, you know,
I'm gonna bring that to the next, I'm gonna bring that to the next,
Okay.
our first committee
Meeting.
on the 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
thank you, Mr. Chair. No more questions.
Okay, I think that exhausts us, so I don't think there's any action to be taken today. Do you guys concur?
Yes,
Concur.
concur.
Okay, so now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Everybody have a great night. Great meeting, everybody. Thank you so
Good night.
much.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Come soon, Joseph.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
I'll read the rest of them before I get out of here.
You brought up a strong point, because when this is the staff, because I was a high school scheduler for
Yeah.
7 years. I did a master's.
Right.
These are the students. These are the course requests. This is the staff you're given.
Do that. Okay.
You have to offer 18 sections of Algebra 1
Right.
because the demand for Algebra 1
Right.
or the need for it. So you want to offer an AP course,
Right.
but you don't have a math teacher to teach it.
They may still be on here. You're okay. I don't think you're saying you shouldn't.
No, I'm just saying.
Gotta turn that off.
Don't lie.
So those are the things that people need to realize, is that also resources,
Right.
human capital.
Right.